digs in search of grubs, locust pupae and seeds. This bald little bird rarely flies except during its song flight. Birds at least have the option to fly in search for water. However, most simply take shelter where they can find it. Some stand gaping, losing heat by evaporative cooling, whilst others spread their wings, exposing the featherless areas to the cooling effect of the desert winds. Migration is important to a bird's survival all over the world, and Arabia is no exception. It is estimated that every year 3 billion birds cross our peninsula. In fact, researchers from the RSCN in Jordan's eastern region, not far from Burkur, are monitoring and ringing birds as part of a BirdLife International World Survey.
Notch 10, length 66.
This wetland at Azraq is a watering site of global importance for migratory birds. Each year, many hundreds of thousands of birds pass through from across Eurasia, en route to Africa or other parts of Arabia for the winter. Its strategic location has turned it into a major birdwatching destination, an oasis of life in the middle of Jordan's eastern desert. But not all is well underneath this reserve's apparent success.
I think it's difficult to have this balance between the human needs and the nature needs. So there must be a fight, kind of a fight. Even if we are humans, but we are trying to protect the other side, which is the nature.
This large desert oasis formerly comprised of a complex of spring-fed marshes. Within the last 15 years, the spring's aquifers had been so depleted by water extraction for irrigation and human consumption that in 1992, water flow ceased completely and the marshes dried up. After an extensive campaign mounted by the RSCN, water authorities are now pumping water back into the marshes as part of a national conservation plan, narrowly saving this oasis from an environmental catastrophe. However, some researchers are concerned that more water is needed to sustain viable levels for the ecosystem and the birds that use it.
This amount of water that we are getting back from the government is not enough for the sustainability of this wetland reserve. We still need more sources of water. We can have more biodiversity, more habitats for the animals, for the small insects that live in this area, which will be better for even the migration birds. Now they come back again, not like before, but the situation each year is much better than the year before it.
Increasingly, for Arabia's birds, the challenges of crossing the deserts are formidable. The irony of urbanization is that many cities and agricultural centers are today creating green belts, tempting birds away from their natural flight paths. An apparent abundance of fields, green parks and lakes leading some species astray. This concentration of water and vegetation has even encouraged some species to start nesting in areas they would normally not have.
Over 415 different bird species have been found in the United Arab Emirates, and in one year alone you can find 250 of them The other 150 odd are very rare vagrants. So this country attracts real rare accidental species from northwest Siberia, from eastern Russia. It's extraordinary. So for bird watchers, it's a very exciting place. 20 years ago, you could count the numbers in one hand, and now there are virtually hundreds of thousands of those species. It's just incredible. But the migrant birds particularly do need to stop somewhere like this, otherwise they're going to die. Because 80% of migrant birds do die on their first year after they've fledged. They head south, and it's a really big risk for them. But countries like this, where you've got the green, and in fact most of Arabia has got such man-made green areas, that a lot of birds do survive the southbound journey. They find a feeding area like this, they'll build up their fat reserve to sort of 30 or 40% additional body weight, and it'll allow them to travel for several days without stopping. So these areas are very much an additional advantage to birds that didn't have it in the old days. So it's probably increasing a lot of bird populations. That is, if their wintering grounds are safe, and most of these birds winter in Africa. And unfortunately, Africa doesn't look good these days. There's been a lot of drought, a lot of degradation. So this might be a balance.
It's hard to know now what impact these changes will have in the long term. But it is fair to say that whole natural cycles of life are being subjected to changes through this region's rapid development.